All right, guys, I think we are live now. We are really excited to have Dr. Tim Zittle with us here tonight. Dr. Tim is actually up in Michigan right now. He practices in Columbus, Ohio, great state. But he is in Michigan right now. There was actually another amped office that was just opened up, just had the ribbon cutting today, and he's up there helping them out today. So I know we got some questions. We want to jump into those, but we're going to go ahead and Dr. Tim's going to go ahead and talk to you guys about himself a little bit. So Dr. Tim, take it away.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for the opportunity to be here with you tonight. This is such a huge honor and a pleasure always to be with you guys and connect with you. So a little bit about myself. Well, first of all, I am in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which you feel like it's probably the furthest thing from Columbus, Ohio that you can get in terms of culture and people and whatnot. And I know Kent will understand that better than anybody. But really, a huge shout out. I got to start out by giving a huge shout out to Dr. Andy Schneider and his wife, Kelsey. They just orchestrated a phenomenal ribbon cutting that I was able to fortunately be a small part of. And it was just beautiful to see how the AMP procedures came together and created such an incredible atmosphere and people just flocking through just such an incredible environment for people. So first of all, big shout out to them. Really excited for them and their practice and everything that they're doing here. A little bit about myself. I was born a baby, Baltimore, Maryland, and slowly made my way down to Atlanta, Georgia to go to the doctorate program at Life University. I started there in January of 2012, graduated in June of 2015, and around January of 2015, I was ready to go to open up my own practice. And I knew that was the track that I wanted to go. I had my location sort of narrowed down, and I felt like I was prepared enough. I had been part of AMP from its very beginning. And so I thought, I had everything that I needed to really be successful and to drive that thing forward. And life happens kind of weird and funny some ways. And sometimes you just can't be prepared for what happens. So I had some life circumstances happen that kind of chopped away at some of my plans and my preparation. And that whole time I had been getting mentored and spending time volunteering at Dr. Rusty Herring's office down in Auburn, Alabama. If you guys haven't been there yet, you need to go there. It's only an hour and a half from Life. It's a fun drive straight down 75 to 85, and it's really, really easy to make. But anyway, I've been spending a lot of time, like to the tune of driving down there and back 3 times a week to go spend time in his practice when I didn't have class. And I was learning so much. And he actually, funny story, he won't tell it this way, but the true story is he offered me the associateship position and I said no. And then he offered it to me again and I said no again. And then on the third time I accepted. I'm just kidding. No, on the third time I actually went to him and I said, Dr. Rusty, I think right now in my life, there's just so many different things going on. And I feel like what's going to be best for me, even though I'm ready to open up practice, I think it'd be best for me to keep learning from you and to really cement my skills here. And so he gave me the opportunity to do that. I started that in June of 2015 and was there until December of 2016. We grew Dr. Rusty's practice from around 550 visits a week to 850 visits a week. So in an 18-month span, we experienced some huge growth there, which was phenomenal. And it was during that time that I really connected with a couple by the names of Dr. Laura and Brad Peel. And they came down and spent time in Dr. Rusty's office as well. Dr. Laura ended up doing her peak internship there. And Brad came and worked as our office manager. And we were really fortunate to have them do that. I stole Brad away from Dan Wallace. Sorry, Wallace. Wallace wanted Brad to come work with him the whole summer. And I convinced Brad to come be our office manager in Auburn instead. So the short story, I guess long story long, it's already long now, but the short version to end it is Brad and Laura and I were all preparing and planning separate practices. So they were going to go back to Columbus, Ohio and open up an office. And I was planning on going somewhere close to Charlotte, North Carolina, which is where my family now is. And so we thought, man, this is going to be great. They're in the office for 6 months. This is my last 6 months at Cornerstone as an associate. We'll plan for our practices together. And so we started using each other as an accountability group. We were watching calls together. We were working a full day at Cornerstone, 8 or 9 a.m. to 7 or 8 p.m. And then we would go back to their house and brainstorm for another 3 to 4 hours on our own practices. And finally, the day came a couple weeks in, or really a couple months in, where Brad sat me down and said, hey, I remember it like it was yesterday. We were at Einstein Bros Bagels, the place where all good things happen. And he sat me down and said, listen, man, I know we've been planning our own separate practices, but we've got a crazy idea for you. And I said, you have a crazy idea. I'm the one that has all the crazy ideas. So this has got to be crazy. And he said, yeah, it is. We were thinking, you've got a lot of great experience that you can bring to the table. And Laura and I have a great city. We have a great mission. We have a great passion for these people in Columbus. And we also are going to want to start a family sometime in the near future. And we feel like, you go fast if you go alone, but we can go farther if we're together. And we believe that we could really do something really big in Columbus, Ohio, if you would agree to come with us. And it shell shocked me. I wasn't ready for that. And to be honest with you, I struggled with that decision because my personal pride was involved. I felt like I had to open up an office on my own to be worthy of praise and credit, that if I went with Laura and Brad, that I would be going from one office that someone else had built and I had just succeeded in to another office that we were going to build the three of us, and people were going to question my ability to succeed on my own. And so I'll be frank and transparent with you when I said that it wasn't an easy decision for me. But having said that, one of the best decisions I've ever made. Opening up a practice with them was an absolute dream of an experience, not because it was easy, but because it was worth it. And so we moved to Columbus in January, opened our office in June. And since then, from June to now, I guess we're 4 months in. It's been a fast 4 months. We're growing like crazy. And seeing incredible things happen with the people of Columbus. We're seeing people get healthy. Just to share one story really quickly, and then I'm going to cut out because I know I've talked for a while, but had this guy come into the practice the other day, a couple weeks ago, really just 2 weeks ago. Guy couldn't sleep in his bed. He's like sleeping out of his chair, his lazy boy. He'd been this way for years. He had a severe disc herniation at L4, and the docs were telling him he was going to have spinal surgery, and he was scared to death of doctors. We were trying for weeks to get this guy in here. Some of his family was already coming in. And so we finally got him in, got him assessed. He could barely get on the adjusting table. We adjusted him. And this is 2 weeks later now. He's sleeping in his bed every night. He goes for a 1-mile walk around his apartment complex every single day. He was literally like running around the office shouting holy crap and high-fiving people the other day when he got up off the table. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Just him like hopping up off the table and fist bumping people and saying holy crap, I can't believe how good I feel. He told me he's like 10 years younger, and so he said in the beginning when you adjusted me, it was so painful, and the pain I was in, he was like, I was going to give up Osama bin Laden's location. Like he would say that every single day. He'd be like, I'm going to tell him where Osama is. This is the torture that I'm in. But now he's living footloose and fancy free and working hard and playing hard with this new health. And we're really excited for him. So seeing a lot of great things happen, but again, just thrilled to be with you guys. You guys are a class act of a club, and I don't think there's anyone better. So excited to answer your questions. What do we got, Kent?
That's awesome. I love that story. And I know all of us appreciate stories like that too, because being stuck in the classroom, a lot of times we don't get to hear that stuff. So that's awesome. Especially he was going to give up bin Laden. So
that's right. So
all right,
it's a win for everyone.
Right. The first question we have is from Brandon Hart.
Awesome. Hey, Brandon. Good to hear from you, bud.
What were some of your goals that you wanted to accomplish before you entered your peak office?
That's a great question. I just wanted to be as prepared as possible. I wouldn't say that I had I could have been more specific in my goals. I would say I knew that I wanted to be a proficient adjuster. I didn't make myself have to be the best adjuster, but I wanted to be good enough to be able to succeed in that environment. I wanted to have an idea as to what I wanted to do with my future practice laid out, because again, at that time I was planning on opening up by myself. So I wanted to really have a game plan as to how I was going to do that. So really just following the steps of the Jumpstart program. I would say if you're prepared to implement the Jumpstart program going into your peak experience, I don't know that there's any better way that you could structure yourself and your goals.
Awesome. That's perfect. And by the way, I meant to mention too, I'm planning to hope in a reader than Sims does almost. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
There you go. There you go.
All right. So our next question we have is from Jordan Lammer.
Okay, Jordan.
So he has a couple of questions in here. He says, what was the process of deciding to open up versus associate at Dr. Rusty's? And you went through that a little bit, but he's saying what things were important to you in that decision, and why did you choose his practice to associate in versus other amped offices? And then he said, besides Dr. Rusty being the bomb.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, really, it was because he was really, really tall. If you notice, I always surround myself with really tall people. So I went from working with Dr. Rusty, and he was way taller than me, and then I had to up the ante a little bit. So then I work with Brad now. He's my boss. Brad's my new boss. And he's as tall. So I don't know how I'm going to top that one day, but no, I'm kidding. To be honest with you, the decision to associate, once I knew that I was going to associate, the decision to associate at Cornerstone was a no-brainer for me. One, because I had community there. I had already spent so much time there and invested so much of myself and my life into those practice members, into that team, and Dr. Rusty and that team had invested so much into me that I already felt at home. And I knew that it was an office that fit. It fit me. It fit my personality. It fit the type of practice that I was looking to have, the type of impact that I was looking to make on people. So that was a no-brainer for those reasons. Guys, if I can speak to all of you, and especially you, Dr. Jordan, do not stop looking for if you're going to associate or you're even thinking about it, do not stop looking for the right relationship, the right setting until you find the best one. I know a lot of people that stop short and they settle and they have a less than optimal experience, even in amped offices or in other offices that are great offices that are incredible opportunities, just because it wasn't the best fit for them. So don't stop just because it gets hard to find an office that really fits you. If you are focused on associating, keep looking until you find the right opportunity. That will make or break your experience. For sure, I see it all the time. In terms of why I associated over opening on my own, to be honest with you, I'll be very transparent. I was in a relationship and I was going to open up with that person, and the relationship ended. It wasn't healthy and it needed to end. And so because of that, all of my plans fell through. And I could have immediately, bounced back. I was still 6 months out from graduating and just getting into my peak experience. But at that point in time, I just needed to do some rebuilding. And I realized that I myself, as a person, as a doctor, as a practitioner, I wasn't where I needed to be to sustain a practice in a healthy way that I wanted to. Not that it would have been unhealthy. It just wouldn't have been to the quality and the excellence that I demanded of myself. And so that's why it made much more sense for me to go to a place where I could be supported and grow and kind of rebuild and use that as a springboard, which is pretty much where I've gotten to now.
That's awesome. So our next question is from Thomas Keogh.
Good old Thomas. What's up, Doc?
Good old Thomas. That's right. So he said, what were some of your goals before opening the practice, and what do your goals look like now?
That's a great question. Before, my goals opening the practice depended on what season we were in. My goals for the initial phase when I first moved to Columbus was to get settled in, to learn the area, even to figure out where pivotal places were, how to get my driver's license and car registration switched over. I mean, those things seem rather basic, but they're time consuming and they require effort. So those were my goals in the beginning, more of on a survival basis. Secondly, the goal was to get funding. Obviously, without that, you can't do much with your own practice. So that was a huge goal for us as well. And then the closer that we got, the more the goal shifted into more networking goals. And at first, the networking goals started out as see how many people you can give your business card to. And then I realized how fruitless that was, because a lot of people can have your business card and a lot of people do their laundry a week later and find it in their jeans, right? But unless you're making a connection with that individual and you're really impressing upon them some type of relational aspect, or creating some type of memory in their mind, becoming memorable to them, it's not going to do much for you. So then my goal shifted more into creating relationships and focusing on that to build and drive momentum for our ribbon cutting. And then now, 4 months later, my goals really are to, number one, sustain healthy growth in our practice, which I believe we're doing in a really great way. Number two, to keep pushing for new growth. That's a really hard one. When you're already working as hard as you can to sustain growth in a new practice, it is even harder to continue pounding the pavement to try and bring in and grow your practice more and to do more screenings. I think the last time we've had a full weekend off away from screenings, and my team, my incredible team, Dr. Laura and Brad are screening tomorrow without me because they're awesome, while I'm here helping Dr. Andy and Kelsey. The last time we had a weekend with 0 screenings, I think, was back in August. So we're just pressing forward and making sure that we're hitting the pavement and doing as much as we can and doing as many health talks as we can. So our goals now are centered more around practice. I've just now started to create personal goals. These are things like reading books or spending time alone away from the office, literally forcing myself to take time out of the office, it becomes difficult to do. So I've started serving in my church more. I've started getting more active in the community and doing things like that and finding other activities. So yeah, I would say my goals have shifted quite a bit, but honestly, at the heartbeat of it, it's still to just love on people every single day, connect with people, and serve them to the best of my ability.
Awesome. That's an awesome question. Sorry if I was distracting too. I had to plug my laptop in. So
that's okay. You were distracting me, Ken, but that's all right. I pressed through without it.
Me.
I answered that question in spite of you. I'm just kidding.
That just shows the excellence right there. All right. So this next one here, we've got Darren Jackson, newly certified.
Nice. Way to go, Darren. Congrats to everyone that just got certified. That's awesome.
And Darren was also our Spotlight Thursday for this week. So another.
All right. So everybody's got to get on Darren's level, apparently.
Exactly. Right. So he's got a couple questions here. His first one was, what was your startup cost?
Okay. First question. My personal startup cost? I don't know. Does he want me to answer that like as the office, like what our startup costs were for the office?
Yeah, as the office. Yeah.
Our office startup costs were, I don't know. I'd have to look at the spreadsheets to determine the exact numbers, but I would say our build out was a little bit more expensive than we thought. And we're in a very, very nice corporatized area. So our build out originally was quoted at like 122, but I think by the time it was all said and done, it was around like 100 or 108. And then with the other expenses, paying for events, paying for screenings, paying for equipment, I think we were probably in between 120 to 130. And that's with us as 3 docs. Or 3 docs. Right. Yeah, Dr. Brad. Yeah. 2 docs
Dr. Brad.
Office manager. I call him Dr. Brad. I call him Dr. Brad so much.
I know. It's like, he's still Dr. Brad.
No, I'm just kidding.
Don't know. Brad Peel is not a doctor.
He's not. All the kids in our office. Yeah. All the kids in our office call him Dr. Brad. All of them, they all think they think he's more of a doctor than myself and Dr. Laura, which again goes back to the height, back to the height thing. Apparently, if you're the tallest, you're automatically the doctor. That's how it goes.
Nice. So his question was, what's your monthly overhead? Rough estimate.
Well, that's going to depend on how well you negotiated your lease. It's going to depend on your ancillary services, like who you're paying for your phones, who you're paying as your CPA, if you have a CPA, who you're paying in terms of your payroll. Our monthly overhead is a little unique because we have 2 docs and an office manager. It's not like we have, a doc able to take ownership draws and then only work focused on paying hourly team members. So for us, our overhead is higher than a lot of other offices due to that. But our overhead for the first 3 months of our practice was very low because we had negotiated free rent and TIA and all these other things into our lease. And a lot of our other services, we negotiated so that the first few months we would pay less and then our prices would slowly escalate over time to the normal rates. So I would strongly recommend doing that. There's never anything that cannot be negotiated. Now, the worst that can happen is they say no, but I would still try to do it. Fortunately, we have a total shark, which is Dr. Brad, on our team, and he's able to get us some really, really good opportunities there. And so I would say our overhead was probably around, for the first couple months, was probably around in between $5,000 to $7,000. And then our overhead now has jumped up. If you don't count payroll, it's around 11 to 13. And if you count payroll, then it's pushing, 18, 19.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. And a lot of that stuff will come in the Jumpstart program as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would refer to that. Every
Awesome.
office is going to be so different. So it's hard to, I could give you our numbers, and to be honest with you, I don't have a lot of them accessible to me right now. And Brad, again, is such a stronghold of our team, holding down a lot of that stuff and taking care of a lot of that stuff for us. So I've never really even had to worry about it. But to be honest with you, I could give you our numbers all day long, and that wouldn't really help you a lot because your situation is most likely going to be very different.
Right. And then his last question was, how much are you charging per adjustment?
It really depends. And this is what we tell a practice member too. So I just want you to know we're very transparent. I was telling Kent earlier before we even got on the call, we're very transparent with our practice members. We don't mind telling them what we charge per adjustment. But even in full transparency, it depends. It depends on what insurance is covering. In Ohio, it's very, very difficult to get insurance coverage or to get them to cover what we need them to cover the value of an adjustment or what we believe it to be. So we're very, very cash dependent. I would say 80 to 90% of our practice is cash. And so when you're looking at cash, because you have different options and different ways to pay, and because we structure care differently for families, we structure care differently for individuals that can't come as often as other individuals, that cost per adjustment can range from $31 to $35 an adjustment, which for us made sense considering the average cost per adjustment in our area is closer to 50, in between 50 to 60.
Yeah, that's awesome. Next question is from Alex Awad. He's a newly certified member as well.
Awesome.
So Alex said, why did you decide to practice in the city that you're in? And how important is it to build relationships with other chiropractors in your area?
Oh, this has got to be one of my favorite questions that has been asked tonight. Number one, because I'm like all in on the city of Columbus. I'm an all or nothing kind of guy. If you haven't noticed by now, Ken knows. But yeah, so I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland. If you ever see my car on campus, you're going to know it's mine just because it has like Ravens everything. My license plate says Go Ravens. I'm pretty obsessive about it. And then I moved to Auburn, Alabama, and they were trying to get me into college football. There's this thing called the SEC. They said was a big deal. And so I bought the jersey and wore the blue and orange and, got into the War Eagle phase. And then I moved to Columbus, Ohio, and I was like, here we go again. I'd never been to Ohio in my life before I moved here to open this practice. And they told me about this place called the Ohio State University. That was a big slip up on my part. I'm going to pay for that. But anyways, and then
you can't do that.
I can't. And so I watched my first Ohio State game, and I was like a little concerned, like after Auburn, am I going to be able to live up to this? And you can ask my friends. I showed up in I borrowed one of Brad's jerseys. I was wearing it was like 80 degrees outside, and I was wearing like a full on like scarf and like hat and everything. I had to go all in. So I'm like all on the Buckeye train now for college football. So I love Columbus. I absolutely love this city. I love the people here. These people have been welcoming to us in a way that I've seen very rarely in my life. And so I love this city. I love they have a real heart for community service and community outreach, which jives really well with what is important to us. So we serve a lot, and our office serves a lot, and that works well with the people that we serve. I just think you could stand in the epicenter of the city. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kent. You can stand in the epicenter of the city, drive 15 miles in any direction, and be in Beantown. We're talking about the 13th largest city in the U.S., still connected to that grassroots feel. So I love that city for so many reasons. It's centrally located in the U.S. You're within 4 to 5 hours flying of anywhere in the U.S. So there's a lot of things to like about it. And it's one of the fastest growing. It's like the 3rd or 4th fastest growing city in the U.S. It's booming. And that's why Kent's going to come and work for us in a couple years. See that? See that? Oh, I got a little muscle twitch. Anyways,
I
anyway,
was
but
muted
yeah.
over here, so I couldn't dispute that right away.
The second part of your question, what was the second part of his question? Sorry, I forgot it.
How important is it to connect with chiropractors in your area?
Yes, such a great add-on. It's intensely important. Number one, chiropractors eat their own. I mean, you guys sitting there in school know this better than anyone. So it really breaks the mold when you as a chiropractor are seeking to generate relationships with other chiropractors. They do not know how to handle that. And when you're at community events and there's multiple chiropractors there and they kind of slime their way up to you, they're really sleazy about it. I don't understand why that's the case. They're kind of sneaky about it. But when they do, and then they find out like, oh, this person doesn't see me as a threat. That's weird. You know, why aren't we competing against each other? I think that it becomes a source of real value. I mean, some of the people that I got along with best at life are now right in my backyard, and I couldn't be happier about it. It's created this incredible support system, this ecosystem for chiropractors to succeed and do great. And there's so many people in that city that we could all boom and do incredibly well together. Another thing that does is it allows us to diversify for our practice members. We see people that want a manual adjusting technique when we run into them at events and health talks. We, in our office, doing full TRT, will never be able to provide that for them. So it really helps if we have someone subluxation based, neurologically based that we trust, that we can refer them to adjust them in the manner in which it's going to be most comfortable for them. I mean, guys, what's the real goal here? That our office does great, far and beyond breaking records, or that people are getting care. If you really connect to that and you really believe that people getting care is the way that we all win, then being friends and developing a network with chiropractors in your area is the best way to do that, hands down.
Awesome. And yeah, I can definitely vouch for you on the whole the Ohio State University. You have to say and number two, yeah, Lauren is over here. My girlfriend Lauren's over here. So
I can follow that. I know that now.
But yeah, it's true though. You drive 15 minutes outside of anywhere in any direction in your cornfields.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're out in the middle of nowhere. So it is an awesome city.
And so much city pride too. I've never seen a city that has like as much gear and clothing lines and designer wear and arts and crafts and stuff that feature Columbus or C-Bus or something with a bus in it, like anything that relates to Columbus itself. These people are just so big on their city and home loyalty, and it's just cool to be a part of.
Yeah.
Especially after being definitely in Atlanta where everybody like can't get out of there fast enough.
Right? That's very good point. Very good point. All right. The next question is from a last name that you're familiar with, but a different first name, Brian Lichtenauer.
Oh, good old Brian, Bry guy.
Yeah. So he's asking how many screenings / office visits did you do, and how would you prioritize your time differently if you could start over from the beginning in school? So this is how many screenings or / office visits that you did during school, and how differently would you prioritize your time all over?
Okay.
A loaded one.
Yeah, well, we have to take into account when I'm answering this, I would have done it very differently. And part of that is because Amped wasn't even around when I started school. So Amped was first a thing. I remember going to the very first Amped club meeting ever. I mean, I'm sure that's probably hard to believe, but there was one at one point in time. And being there, I think it was seventh quarter. So the first half of my education there, we didn't have Amped. We did have something called Reach the World, which was vaguely similar. So my first couple screenings I actually did through Reach the World before Amped was even a thing. I connected with Amped through a friend of mine who's a total crazy kook, and I love him to death. And he's one of the best doctors I've ever met in my life, Dr. Anthony Pellegrino. And he's, far and away an incredible practitioner. And he was super crazy about chiropractic, and he was really intense about it, and he loved it so much, and that made me want to love it more. And so he's the one that kind of dragged me into it. So yeah, I would do it very differently. I would have gotten involved from first quarter. If I knew what I knew now, I would pace myself. So I'd do a couple screenings a quarter in the beginning, and then once I was sure that I could handle doing screenings and school, then I might ramp up my load. But I would say after probably eighth or ninth quarter, after CLET, after part one of boards, that's when I would really start ramping up in terms of my amp. I would be consistent in my application, in my use, in my watching the modules, am I doing consistent screenings? Maybe not a ton, maybe not every weekend, but consistently throughout, several times a quarter, visiting other offices on breaks. Huge shout out to David Rafton, spent his break with us, just serving, and doing things like that won't interfere with your schooling. I would have done much more of that. And then ninth, 10th quarter, which is around when I started getting involved with Dr. Rusty's office. That's when, I would be hitting the pavement like full steam ahead. Every screening I could get into. And that's kind of where that started for me, was around ninth or 10th quarter is where I got involved with Dr. Rusty's. And that's when I really ramped up and really started becoming real to me.
Awesome. So the next one, we've got another one from Thomas, who is saying, how did you and Dr. Laura decide who does what in the office?
That's a great question. I think that's something that we're still evolving into. We're 4 months into practice. So we worked well at Cornerstone where we had clearly defined roles. But here, where we're both on a level playing field, we're really just trying to play from our strengths. And so since we both have some strengths that are similar, it's easy to want to step on each other's toes there. And that's a delicate balancing act. But we also have a lot of strengths that are opposite. One of those that I'll highlight for her is I am not a numbers guy. And I don't say that like I'm not a numbers guy, like I don't know how many people are seeing a week, or like, I don't, know how much money a care plan is when I'm reviewing it with someone. I mean that in terms of like calculations, in terms of insurance coverage, percentages. That's why when I'm giving you these numbers from the earlier questions, I'm guesstimating. My brain just isn't analytical that way. I'm a full-on heart guy. I'm a passion guy, an emotion guy. So numbers and facts and figures don't make the most sense to me. But she is so strong in that area. And so for her, it's been a really, really great opportunity to lean on her and let her lead in those areas where we have those very, very strong analytical needs, whether that's making sure that she does a lot of our quality control, whether it's on care plans, on our office visits, our numbers and things like that. Having Brad is really strong in that area. It's a very delicate balance when you're trying to make sure that people feel cared for and respected. And especially because she's a female doc in the workplace and I'm a male doc in the workplace, that adds another different dynamic to it. So you have to juggle all of these different things while at the same time, it's just been a great journey seeing her grow. I can't believe there's a lot of times and days where I work with her and I can't believe she just graduated in December. Like it's mind boggling to me how quickly she's become confident and inspired and so proficient in practicing and serving people. It's really incredible to see. And that makes it really easy for me. There's plenty of times where I'm very content to just like let her, sit there and go through the schedule and lead our team meetings and lead our team huddles because she does it so well. And I don't say that sit there as in like I'm allowing her to do that. I'm saying she just steps up to the plate and hits these things out of the park on a regular basis. So that makes it easy for me. And I think the rest of it, we just work around each other as best we can. And we try to communicate through those awkward times where we're like, oh, I was going to do that, but I think you're trying to do that too. There's times like that. There's times where we both have an area of strength we want to operate from and it clashes a little bit, and communicate. That's when communication is key. You just have to talk through those things. So I would say, Thomas, I think that's who asked that. I would say we're still figuring that out. It's an everyday thing. And the longer we work together, the easier it'll be to find those areas where we mesh well, in the areas where we, are very different and can play from our strengths. But I would say that that's the biggest thing. Play from your strengths, and in the areas where you both want to do something or be involved, just communicate through that.
Awesome. And just quick, how many, is it just you three in the office? How many team members, what are you guys at with that?
Yeah, it's just us three, just plugging away. We got Brad holding down the front desk and pretty much everything else. And then, you know, Dr. Laura does a lot of our adjusting and our day ones and phone calls and, you know, pretty much everything. And then I just sit there and smile at people and make them laugh. No, I'm just kidding. No, so you know, we all just kind of serve, and all three of us just have the mindset of doing whatever needs to be done. And I think that's what makes our team dynamic work, is that we don't spend a lot of time just kind of like antagonizing or not antagonizing each other. We don't do that, but agonizing over who's doing what or who needs to do what or why I should be doing this and you shouldn't. It's pretty much just like, does it need to get done? Yeah, then we're just going to step up and do it, whether it's our strength or not. But it just so happens that we like to support each other by being like, hey, if I know it's something that she doesn't feel as confident in, I don't mind stepping up and saying, listen, I know you may not feel as confident. I'd love to do this to help serve you. And I know that if it's like a care plan and it's, you know, she did this just the other day for me, I was really struggling with a care plan. I feel like Sims reading the amped questions when I'm like looking at the numbers on a care plan, trying to factor in insurance and all these things. I literally feel dumb sometimes. Like I can't even add two numbers together. It's quite laughable, but she's been really great. I mean, like she'll step in and say, listen, it seems like that's stressing you out a little bit. It's creating stress in your life. Would it help if I stepped in and helped take that off your plate? And so it's been really awesome to be supported that way.
That's awesome. Cool. So next one we have is from Leslie Melendez.
Hey, Doc.
So Leslie is saying, what was the most beneficial thing you did as a student that really impacted where you are now as a doc?
Got connected with Dr. Rusty. I would say amped for me was pretty much just going through the motions until I really, really got connected with him, until he started pouring into my life and I started spending intentional time with him and his team in his office. Um, Guys, we can watch modules all day long. We can get our heads in the books all day long until you see these things played out real time in an office with real life crisis situations and real life objections. And you see the way these teams are handling this. You see the way these docs are responding to these objections. You see the way their table talk is. You see the way they live their life and the way they structure their life and have their habits. Until you see that and you can experience that real time, real life, it just, there's just something missing. So I would say the biggest thing about that I see in students more often than not is that they watch the videos, they go to club, and they miss the most exciting and gratifying and awesome part, which is seeing it play out every day in an office.
Yeah, I can second that. Just being able to go and be in a couple different offices during adjusting hours, it totally shifts your focus from how you view doctors and like how you think about when you're watching modules. Because now when you've seen it in action, when you watch these modules, you're thinking about how you're going to apply that in your own office. Yeah. And I agree 100% with that. Cool. So the next question is from Riley Mahaffey. Riley is saying, how did you guys receive funding?
Again, our office this is a unique situation. We had three owners. So Brad is our office manager, but we believed in Brad and it just didn't feel right. We were sitting down at the table and originally when we discussed it as a 50-50 partnership between myself and then Brad and Laura as a couple, since we were going to be the two docs. And then when we talked about it, we just didn't feel right about it. And so Brad brought to the table, as he rightly should have, that he felt like it was a good idea that he come in as an individual owner. And we were only happy to do that for him because we believe in him and the time and preparation that he brought to the table as our office manager. And he's lived up to every single bit of that. So being three individual owners, we were counseled from the very beginning when creating our operating agreement that we should bring an equal amount of money equal to our ownership share in the company. And so what that meant was we all, first went back to our friends and families and first, you're just kind of trying to test those waters and see what's available to you. Hopefully there's been some money that you saved up. I had a little bit saved up myself enough and I was able to get a personal line of credit, from my bank to help as well. And then I had some friends of mine who are chiropractors who are absolutely incredible to me, two of my favorite people in this world. who stepped in a big way and loaned, did a private loan with me for some of that money. And then Brad and Laura, went to their families and they were able to get some. And so then when it came to the banks really, because we were a triple owner partnership, the banks really didn't want to help out at all. I mean, and it was for no lack of trying. I want to say we went to all the banks, right? 14, 15, 16, I lost count of how many we went to. And as soon as they saw our business plan, they were all on board. They saw what we wanted to do. They were all on board, and they heard that we had 3 separate owners, and then they were out, and they didn't want anything to do with it, because it was something they'd never done before. It was too messy for them. So it was pretty crazy. We all ended up bringing to the table what we agreed upon in the ownership agreement and the operating agreement. But then after that, our build out exceeded, right? Like I said in the beginning, our build out exceeded what we thought it was going to. So then we had to come up with more money. And you're talking about, we're already strapped. We've put everything that we've had into it. We can't go back to those original things. The banks are saying no. So then we were really, really fortunate to have some key family members from Brad's side of the family stepped in and were willing to put their names and reputation on the line, see and open up, and we're intensely grateful to them for that. So yeah, it was through a series of personal and private loans, and then whatever money we had saved, the equipment that we had been buying up over that time period. So it was kind of like, the bad news bears, you're just grabbing up whatever you can gain access to, and then pulling that together to make it work.
Nice reference.
Thanks.
The next question's from myself.
Okay.
I know you don't have a team member currently, but my question was saying, what's the number one thing that you will be looking for in a team member when you are? And based off of when you worked with Dr. Rusty's team, what is something that you value most out of the team member?
Attitude. Attitude is contagious. Someone that has a great attitude and a willingness to learn and a high drive and a high passion and zeal for life is someone that can be life-giving in an office. Skills, policies, procedures, practices can all be trained. But it doesn't, if someone's coming to the table with natural aptitude to learn a script, but they have a terrible attitude, they're going to make a terrible team member. Whereas somebody that's coming to the table that has a willingness to learn, they may struggle learning the scripts a little bit, but when they get it down, their natural ability to be happy and excited and be life-giving and serve people and love people well is going to far overshadow any deficiencies in their ability to to memorize the script or recite it perfectly or to remember, a 12-step process. Those things can be trained and taught over time. I'm much more concerned. I believe our team I can speak for our team as a whole when we say the attitude is everything. Somebody that's a team player. So I would say that's the biggest thing. And then if your question was more geared towards what type of role are they going to have in the office, then I would say our focus for them would probably be on introducing them into like an office tour, day one evaluation type of role to free Brad up to do more of what he loves, which is connecting with people and running that front desk.
Gotcha. No, that answered it perfectly. I was just curious of what the quality of someone is that you're looking for, so that answered it perfectly. Thank you.
Yep.
We've got Brian Lichtenauer as another, he's got a couple on this one. It says, what happens when a patient wants to pay per visit when you're a new practice and you want to grow? Do you allow that for a little while and try to create value so they will transition into paying full/monthly? Or do you refer out immediately when you realize all they want is pain relief for every 2 to 3 months?
Well, this is a loaded question and one that I believe everyone answers differently. Some people say you cut them loose. If they're not all in, then they're all out. And then there's some people that say, well, you cut them loose unless you're a brand new practice and you need every penny you can get. Me personally, I believe that if you're operating from a standpoint of dollars and cents, and that's why you're allowing that person to pay per visit, then you definitely have to let them go, because that's never the motivation that you want anyone. I don't want someone who commits to care, I don't want someone who pays in full for their care to get care in our office simply because we need the money. In my mind, that's not a great reason to give someone care, and that's not going to help us win with them or serve them well. Does that happen? Absolutely. I'm as human as anyone else, and we all are. And when you're faced with overhead and you're faced with bills, it is a struggle every single day to look at people for their health issues and people in need needing health corrections, as opposed to dollars and cents that could be padding your bank account and helping you pay your bills. It happens. I believe it happens to most of us, if not all of us. However, the sooner you can break that mentality, we do allow people in our office to pay per visit. We give them 30 days to make their decision whether they would like to choose option one or option two. And we have only had, actually, you know what? That person didn't even really start care. So I don't know that we've ever had anyone start paying per visit and then refuse to continue care. They've all seen the value in their care, and that's allowed us to get great results with them across the board. So I personally am of the opinion that it's a case by case basis. If you are assessing someone and they seem like they're dialed in, and you're assessing someone and they seem like they're paying attention at the new practice member orientation, and when you go over their care with them, it seems like there's just some little twinge of hesitation, but they're super quick to jump on, hey, if I can pay per visit and get some time to make up my mind, that person I'm much more likely to give care to than someone who's saying, I don't really feel like this is necessary, but I'm willing to give it a try. I'll think about paying per visit. Um, but I would say in my office, or really in our office, myself, Dr. Laura, and Brad, we're of the opinion that some care is better than none. And if a person chooses not to follow the recommendations for their care, we're just very clear with them. Listen, we just want to let you know that we believe some care is better than none. If we do not follow these recommendations for your care, we want you to know that that is of your own accord, and we cannot expect to see the same amount of changes that we would have if you had followed our recommendations for your care. If you would like to do that, that's completely up to you. You have 30 days to decide if you'd like to choose option one or two. And until then, you can pay per visit as you'd like. But at the end of that time period, we schedule them for a consult and we sit down with them and say, okay, it's been around this time. We're about ready to do your, initial evaluation, your first reassessment. And so we want to know kind of where we stand with your care. What does your care look like for you? And we've never had an issue with that to this point.
Awesome. So now we've got a flurry of Evan Lichtenauer questions.
Awesome.
So he said, how early did you start paying for screenings?
We started paying for screenings. I think we opened in June. We started paying for screenings in March or April, as soon as we could find them. We did our first screening the first weekend in April. So, and we paid for that one. So I'm assuming that happened in late February or early March, and we were paying from them from that point on.
Okay. And he said, how much money roughly? And I love how all the numbers questions are going to you after you said that you don't do it. It's bound to happen. But he said, how much money did you spend on screenings before opening, if you had to guess?
Oh, I have no idea. A couple $1,000, $1,500 to $2,500.
Okay.
But that also included screenings that were going to be later in the year that we didn't actually do until after we opened. So that's also, we were paying ahead of time for events that you had to register in April and May, but the event wasn't until July or August. So, that's also taken into account that wasn't just for screenings we did before we opened.
Okay. Awesome. And then he says, what's the ratio on fishbowl cards to how many talks that come from it? Does that question even make sense?
Yes. I think it depends on the quality of your location, your fishbowl location. We had some fishbowl locations that would yield, 20 cards and only one health talk. And then we'd have other fishbowl locations that would have 3 cards and 2 out of the 3 would yield a health talk. It really just depends on the quality of your location and the quality of the cards being placed in it. It's hard to predict. And to be honest with you, fish bowls are a fickle thing. You go one time and you think you're building. We had a fish bowl at Jason's Deli And I had built a consistent relationship with this manager. I went and saw her like every other week, leading up to her office opening when we placed the fishbowl. And then, we had the fishbowl there. We actually did 3 talks using them to cater our food, which they were thrilled about. I made sure I connected with them after every single talk saying, thanks so much. You guys did a great job. Again, just to reaffirm that we want that fishbowl there. We want their repeat business. And showed up like 3 weeks ago and the fishbowl was trashed. So you never know. They will throw it out for any reason. So it's kind of a luck of the draw type thing. But yeah, it's, to be honest with you, there's times where you'll get like 7 and 4 out of the 7 will do it. And there's times where you'll get 27 and get 1 talk. So it just depends.
Cool. Then he has one more here. He says, have you found fishbowl talks have higher or lower show up rates versus a normal B2B health talk?
I would say the majority of our health talks have come via fishbowl. So I don't know if I have enough stats or if I have enough B2B health talks to warrant a statistical analysis of that. However, I would say health talks across the board are tricky with show up rates. I used to kind of laugh to myself when I would see these people on AMP that would say like, buy food for 80% of the crowd and then show up with it and don't bring it into the office until after you've done the talk, and all these different things. And I used to say like, what happens if you buy it for 80% and they all show up, right? Then you look like a dummy and they don't have enough food, right? What happens if you leave it in your car and then you show up without the food? Then they're going to think, oh, this person didn't care about us. They didn't bring the food. Listen to the people on the secret group. They know they say these things for a reason. We've been burned several times. I had one, Dr. Bradley Peel is watching this video right now. He's probably laughing at home because we did one at a New York Life Financial, those stinkers. They said they had like 20 people. Brad confirmed it with him literally like as I was on my way there. I got there and it looked like this guy did not tell anyone we were doing a talk. There was like 5 people that he brought into the room as he was like going out to collect people. I started the talk and I kid you not, you cannot make this stuff up. I was in the middle of my health talk and people would come in the side door, grab a sandwich and leave again in the middle of my talk. Like the whole time I'm talking, they would just like random people coming in from the woodwork. So I'm sure we did have about 20 people out of like all these randos that are just strolling in, grabbing food and leaving. Needless to say, I was less than thrilled with that opportunity. But yeah, that, to be honest with you, you can't be too clear in your communications with fishbowls and health talks. You just have to tell them exactly what to expect. The more that you can iron those out beforehand and just say, listen, in the past, we've had people tell us that they're going to bring 13 people and they bring 8 people. So I want to know, when we say a confirmed number, are we confirmed when you say 13, should I expect 8 people? Or when you say 13, should I expect 13 people? I mean, be open and honest with them about it. And the more you build that expectation, I think the more your success of health talks will go up. I love health talks. I think health talks, fishbowl talks, B2B, however you get them. Health talks are one of my favorite things to do. It's a really high touch way. It's a quick 10 minutes. And we've seen great returns on those overall.
And then one more question from Evan. What is your top fishbowl location?
Top fishbowl location. This is probably going to surprise people. It was for a little bit. For the first little bit, it was Jets Pizza. Good old Jets Pizza coming through for us. And it was a top fishbowl location not only because we got a few talks from it, but also because it is really, really cheap to do a health talk from Jets Pizza. I mean, if you think about it, you could get food for 15 people. You buy like 4 pizzas and you're at like $28. Whereas for 15 people from Jason's Deli, where you're buying individually portioned meals, you're talking about $8 a pop. So then you're looking at like $80. So that was a great location for us. I would say now it's probably this local barbecue place in Hilliard, which is just another, neighboring city.
What's it called?
Dickie's Barbecue.
Yep. I know the place.
Yeah, man. Yeah, nice. We connected with the owner through the Chamber of Commerce, and he let us put a fishbowl up there, and we've had several successful ones from that.
Awesome. Darren wants to know how big your office is.
Our office is 2,000 square feet even.
Nice. And I know, just to speak on that a little bit, with that, I know you guys had to have like what were some of the parameters that you had to have with
Oh my gosh.
specifics?
Yeah, it was insane. We originally were told we only needed one bathroom. Then they changed that to two bathrooms. So we had to put two bathrooms. They couldn't just be regular bathrooms. They had to be ADA handicap compliant bathrooms. So that means they had to be even bigger than normal bathrooms. We had to put in this crazy broom closet. It's literally like probably 5 by 8. Maybe not. Maybe it's like 4 by 8 room, just as a closet, and it had to have an industrial sink in it. That's it. That was the only parameters. We had to have a closet that was 4 by 8. It had to be that big. It had to have an industrial sink in it for no reason at all. We had to put a tech closet. That's literally what they called it. And it's like a like 4 by 6 room, and all it has in it is our computer, like our computer and or by computer I mean like our Wi-Fi, internet server hookup, all of that stuff. So it's this huge room. So we've chosen to store all of our screening equipment in there too, because honestly we didn't even know what else to do with it. But yeah, we had a bunch of really crazy things that kind of messed with our floor plan a little bit.
Yeah. So we have, I believe, one more question here from Evan Desjardins.
Cool.
She is one of my close friends, but she has already said she plans on associating when she gets out and when she finishes.
Awesome.
So her question, she says, I'm curious if Dr. Tim can speak to his experience as an associate and why he made the decision to associate. You kind of hit on that at the beginning. But what was the most valuable thing that you gained out of the experience, and how did you go about choosing the office you wanted to associate with?
So I'll try to repeat myself as little as possible. I chose the office I wanted to associate with because I had been working there while I was in school, and it was the best fit for me. It was the practice that closest mirrored what I wanted to have someday myself. So that was how I figured out the best fit. Plus, I had a great relationship with the whole team, with many of the practice members, and with the head doc, which was the biggest importance. So that was really important to me. I chose to associate because I felt like I needed this. I felt like while I was ready to open up my own practice, I felt like I could do a better job if I associated first and then opened up my own practice. It was really about foregoing instant gratification to do it better and more excellently down the road. And to be honest with you, the biggest lesson I learned while associating is a lesson I'm still learning today in my current situation, which is it's not about me. It can't be about me. If it's about me, it's going to hurt my relationships. If it's about me, I'm not going to serve from the right heart space. And I will suffer, and the people around me will suffer as a result. So it's a daily struggle for me, to keep my pride in check that way. But a really great way to learn that lesson is to go associate in an office where the office has already been created, where you don't have to worry about taking credit for that, where you really don't have to worry about taking credit for a lot of things because that machine is already well oiled and in place. And all you do is you just go there and you focus on serving people and loving people and connecting with people and helping them be their best them. When you consistently eat that humble pie and you consistently put yourself in a position where you can uplift other people at the expense of yourself and your own self-interest and your own self-gratification, I think that is one of the healthiest things I ever did. And it started a lifelong journey and a lifelong endeavor to really find humility within serving people. And I've not arrived by any stretch of the imagination. Ask Dr. Laura and Brad. They'll tell you that really, really easily and quickly. But that's my goal, and I'm striving for it. And I'm pushing for that. And I relish the opportunity to live out those challenges and to engage with that every single day in my practice now. And I didn't enjoy it like I should have, and I didn't appreciate it like I should have when I was associating. But when I look back now, that's one of the biggest lessons that I learned.
Awesome. And I just want to throw out there too, Dr. Tim, if you're not busy, November 17th and 18th weekend, we're doing the Auburn Ignite trip again.
Nice.
To Dr. Rusty's. So we're going to be doing that again. I know you were at the last one that we did 2 years ago.
Yeah, I remember that was 2 years ago.
But so that was the last of our questions here. We're right at about an hour now. Awesome questions. So it's all for our advanced members here, all of our certified members that we've got this video for. What is some just advice that you could leave them with being a certified member, and what your advice would be continuing on this journey, continuing amped and through school?
That's a great question. And I love that we can end this kind of with a challenge. There's something that's been burned on my brain. I had a conversation with a really, really awesome candidate for an amped associate office. I think she's going to be absolutely brilliant and phenomenal. She has the opportunity to seek that path out for herself from Palmer, Florida. And I had a great conversation with her the other day. And I want to share with you guys what I shared with her. And that is, number one, I don't want to tell you right now a bunch of what you already know, which is listen to your leaders, follow in their footsteps, follow the example, watch the modules, read the books, right? You've heard these things 1,000 times. You don't need me to repeat that to you for you to know that you need to do those things. Keep doing those things. And don't worry if nobody notices. And don't worry if there's no gratification in it. Don't worry if the screenings that you're doing on the weekends are in Walmarts and CVS's and not out in Colorado and Washington State and, in God's country in Columbus, Ohio. Okay. Don't worry about that. Just keep doing it. Okay. I did easily, if I had to count it up, I did in between 20 to 30, if not probably much more than that, considerably much more than that. Walmart screenings, CVS screenings, vitamin shop screenings back when I was in school just for the Hesses, while my friends were getting called out to the, Colorados. And I had the opportunity to take some of those trips too. But the majority of my time was spent screening, in the heartland right there in Atlanta or in the close surrounding areas. And now looking back, I wouldn't trade that for the world. It allowed me to get my skin thickened a little bit. It allowed me to cut my teeth on some really tough conversations and to handle some really tough objections, and built my ability to connect with people on a basic level. But here's my challenge for you moving forward. Some homework for everyone is increase your decision-making abilities. One of the biggest killers that I see every single day when I'm in these different amped offices is indecisiveness, a crippling fear of making the wrong decision. And when you are prey to that, and when you consistently have that as a struggle in your life, it will hold you back. It will keep you from achieving your potential. And achieving better decision-making skills is not that difficult. And I'll tell you, this is what I was telling that associate candidate from Palmer, Florida the other day. And this was something that she was really transparent and confessed to me that she had struggles with. We all do, first of all. And secondly, you start small. When you're looking to make better decisions, you've got to start small. And so what that means is start deciding in the things that really aren't important in the grand scheme of life. Next time you're sitting there looking at your closet, agonizing over what you're going to wear, forget the popularity contest, forget what makes your waistline look bigger, your eyes look bluer, makes you, feel like you're floating on air, right? Really focus on what is an easy and consistent decision to make. Is it this outfit right here? Is it this outfit right here? Boom. Okay, now I've given myself options. I make a decision. Next time you're sitting there with all your friends and they're doing the proverbial, what are we going to eat for dinner, right? Have everybody contribute options. Option A, option B, and then boom, make a decision on that immediately. Those things in the grand scheme of life are very small, but if you learn to decide really well in those things, then that's going to equal more confidence and more decisiveness in the bigger and bigger decisions as you get further and further into life. And that's going to really impact the way that you can run your practice, run your team effectively, if you don't have to spend a lot of time trying to think through what decision is best, so worried that you're going to make the wrong decision, and instead you just make the right decision confidently knowing if you make the wrong one, you're going to realize it, you're going to be able to reverse course and turn around and go the other way. But it's all about making the decision. The minute that you stop doing that, you sit there in fear and you don't decide because you're too scared to make the wrong decision, that in and of itself is a decision to do nothing. And more importantly, that's the biggest reason why so many people don't achieve their full potential, because they decided to do nothing because they were too scared to take the risk or to make the wrong decision. Boom. There you go. That's what I'm leaving you with.
Love it. That's awesome. Thanks again, Dr. Tim. Really appreciate you coming on and doing this for us. I know all the advanced members thank you as well. So thanks for joining in tonight, guys. And we look forward to seeing you guys next time.